There's a handful of little edges that I've been doing with my bait and my presentation in the colder winter months for a lot of years now, and they've stood me in really good stead. The first of these is Willy Crum. Willy Crum is one of the most deadly carp baits there is. As good as a boilie is, if you turn it into crumb, you've got the ultimate feed. To make Willy Crum even better, I like to add lots of liquids. I like to add a lot of liquid to bait. I think one of the great things in bait is the liquid content. So I try and get lots into it. So in the winter, when it's cold, I get my Manilla crumb, blend it up nice and fine in my Kenwood Multi-Chef, and then I add cloudy Manilla liquid and condensed milk. Condensed milk is just fantastic. Just give it a little heat on the stove until it's just thin enough. Add the cloudy Manilla. Maybe 50-50, I don't think the ratio is too important. Don't get them hot because it burns very, very easy, it turns to toffee. It's nice to eat, but it's not great to mix in. So get your liquid when it's just warm, pour it onto the Manilla crumb, and then work it in with your hands or with a spoon so that it's damp and you can just squeeze it together. You don't want it sodden, just damp, and that is one of my best winter bait edges. So once you've got all this lovely liquid infused Manilla crumb, I like to put it into the swim using a spom, super accurate, nothing better than that. And on the rig itself, I have tiny little mesh parcels of the crumb. The liquids that I mentioned are PVA friendly, so you've got no worries there. And I like to fish these little bags at the start of a session, when it's really cold like this, just those on their own are more than enough to get a bite. And then if I get a bite or two, then I might start, investing a bit with the spom. The bag serves two purposes, obviously the attraction purpose that I just mentioned, but it really is important for alleviating tangles. So I'm using quite light mono hook links, small hooks and a longish supple hair. So when I make the bags, they have a little fuse on them, so they're a little round bag with a little fuse, and I hook through the fuse, take it round the back of the hair and then rehook it, and that stops the hair tangling. The final part of the jigsaw is a hook bait, critically important. I like to use a very small hook bait in the winter. Everyone's got their own preferences, but I'm convinced that tiny hook baits get me more bites, especially on really pressured day ticket waters out on the circuit. So I take a Manilla wafter, rather than a bait out of the bag or a Manilla tough. The wafters, once I've trimmed them down, have got a tiny bit of buoyancy, not enough to lift my small hooks. I like to trim the hook bait down nice and small. I'm convinced on really pressured circuit waters that a small hook bait gets me extra bites. So I tend to trim it fairly sort of cuboid, taper it in a little bit on the hair, and always make sure that that's not lifting your hook off the bottom. You want the hook to lay flat next to it. So there you have it, three little edges that have stood me in massive stead over the last few years. Whittled down hook baits, hooked on little tiny mesh bags, and Willy Crum, Manilla crumb, infused with lots and lots of liquids. When it's really cold, they will give you a massive edge.